Hello and welcome back, or just welcome if you're new here. I'm Common Free. I'm first time mom to Elba. I started looking into elimination communication when we were still in preconception, so when we were actively planning and working towards trying to conceive. And then in pregnancy, I went about looking into the practical parts of elimination communication and sourcing the various things that I thought would enrich our elimination communication experience. We then did elimination communication from when Elba was born, and we are now at the end of our elimination communication journey. Actually, more or less about 3 months ago. But contrary to what we see online, I did not experience it to be this stark, like one day you're doing something and then the next day you're like, okay, it's officially over. I guess it's there's elements of it that's like that. But it was more like one day I was like, oh, we're done. We're done. Today's video is around tips, practical things that we did and ways to understand when the journey was actually over, and sort of like checking in with what our real experience is versus what you typically hear and see in a 30-second to a 1-minute reel on social media, which I don't think accurately portrays elimination communication, but it gets the message out there, so I'm not a complete hater on that. But still, I want to talk about the nitty-gritty practical stuff, because that is what I, as a parent, on my elimination communication journey found helpful, rather than just the theoretical understanding of what it is or how to do the things. I'm going to cover everything from nighttime to nap to so-called regressions to trainers and underwear and leaving the house and going on holiday and when you potty in the car, and just loads of little stories of our elimination communication journey from the last time that I gave an update. So on my channel, you can check it out. I have several elimination communication videos where I detailed our journey from 0 to 3 months, at 6 months, I think at 9, 10-ish months. And then again at 12 months is the last time I made an update. And just right before I get into all of that, I just want to give my usual disclaimer, is that I'm just sharing my journey as a parent. I share lots of things that I read. I share lots of resources. I share maybe my opinion and my thoughts, but they are just that as they pertain to me and my family and the things that we value. What I say in this video is not judgment of other people or an assumption that I think that what I do is universally applicable to other people. So with everything that I share, please take what serves you and just leave what does not serve you. These videos are for information sharing, for some different ideas, for my experience of things, but they're not me telling other people what they should or shouldn't be doing. Now, with that all being said, let's discuss the end of our elimination communication journey. So how do you know your elimination communication journey has ended? And this is not as clear-cut as people would think. Different people have different things that occur, or different events or different things that fall away for them to say, okay, my elimination communication journey is now officially over. In the book, Kan ik het gewijs? Go Diaper Free, when she speaks of the end of the elimination communication journey, for her, that is when they stop wearing diapers and they switch over to underwear. I wouldn't say that was not for me the end of elimination communication. That for me was not, okay, we're done with the journey now, because we switched to trainers when Elba was 12 months old, and I'll talk about that decision in this video. But for me, that didn't feel like the end at all. There's like lots of little practical things that come after that. And she even alludes to that in the book, really, as to why one of the reasons that she wrote the book is that a lot of people talk about elimination communication, like how to do it when they're a little baby. But then you kind of get to the end and there's not that many people sharing like, okay, but like, how do you finish this process now? So that is what I'm going to be talking about in this video. But what felt like for me was the end of our elimination communication journey, and what the event that I was like, oh, okay, like if we're done now, was when Elba started consistently leaving the house without wearing a diaper. We've been diaper free at home for a really, really long time, but it was only when literally I opened one of the drawers that we have down here and I was like, oh, there's no more need for there to be diapers in here. And I was never putting diapers in our diaper bag, and I was never putting diapers on her to go anywhere. So my definition of when we finished our elimination communication journey, and this might be different for other people, is when Elba was completely diaper free during the day. And the reason I say this might differ for different people, it's so important to acknowledge the unique EC and just kiddo journeys that people have. Is one of the things is some people make a really big distinction between wearing underwear versus wearing trainers. Now I'm going to talk about our decision with that in this video. I do not make a big distinction there because it's like a minor practicality to me rather than like a big step. Anyway, the other one was I have another elimination communication friend, and her kiddo went diaper free out and about and all of that, which I would consider, okay, cool, your EC journey is done. But she was still wearing a diaper during nap time, and I'll discuss nap time as well in this video. But Elba is completely diaper free during the day, including nap time. And I don't think that I would have thought our EC journey is not done if she was still wearing a diaper during nap time. It just so happens that part of our journey meant that she no longer needs to wear one then. Okay, so as you can hear, there's a lot of like little things with elimination communication. So let's get into the practical parts that I would like to discuss in this video. So essentially the big transition from the last video I made until this video is that we transitioned away from using the potty. I'll speak about the exceptions to using the toilet, and that Elba does not wear a diaper during the day, including nap, or when we go out and about, she only wears a night nappy. Talk about that too. So in our house, Elba will only use the toilet and not the potty. The potties are actually packed away. However, we have an exception to that, and I'd really like to share these little stories in these videos because I really think that they add to the richness that is understanding elimination communication and just different children and parenting and things. So basically what happened was Elba was consistently using the toilet at home and when we went out, but then we had an incident which led to her not feeling comfortable to use public bathrooms. Now, this is actually something that Andrea Olsen covers. I think she like sells these little sticker things that you can put on to prevent the flusher from making that big sound. Because we did have a thing, even when Elba was quite little, she didn't enjoy going into public bathrooms. It's quite loud in there, like the flushing sounds and the hand washing sounds, but that's not what I'm referring to here. What happened here was Elba was very comfortable with me just taking her to a public toilet and kind of like holding her over the toilet. I do have one of those foldable seats. And then my mom came to visit us after some period of my mom not being here. It was very exciting for Elba. She really enjoyed being around my mom. And the first outing we took literally like the next day after my mom arrived, we went to a new place and I was like, okay, as usual, you know, I'm going to offer her toilet, look for it and find it. And I think I rather abruptly just sort of took her because I'm used to doing this. I'm used to like doing these outings by myself. I didn't really like gradually take her away from my mom or ask my mom to go with. And she got really upset when I went into the bathroom, like outright refused to go in the bathroom. I was obviously a bit confused because we'd not had this before. But then we went on with our stuff and she used the potty like outside, like literally outside in the cold, rather than wanting to go to bathrooms. And that was now like almost 4 months ago, and she still is not comfortable using public toilets. She's more comfortable to go inside the public bathroom. I mean, she's still not a fan and she still really is not a space that she enjoys. So I do try to pick like the ones with a lot more space or the ones with a change table, or some of them have like breastfeeding couches and things like that. So I try to take her to those, or if I can just avoid taking her to a bathroom and just find some other kind of room, then I do that. But she doesn't want to use public toilets at this point in time, which means that I am currently back to carrying around our elimination communication potty wherever we go when we leave the house. So an interesting thing with this is that preference or aversion includes like friends' houses and the Airbnb we stayed at when we went on our trip to Costa Rica. She also would not use the bathroom at the Airbnb for the entire duration of our trip. So As impractical as it is, I just carry around that Potty. And I will do that for as long as it takes her to, again, be comfortable with the use of public bathrooms. And honestly, I get why she's not. And there's no pressure on her for that, although it does add an element of concern for me when we go out and about, if I'm maybe worried that she might not want to go into the bathroom, and then I might not be able to find a place to potty, but she can usually resort back to going potty in the car. So far it's been fine. Something I like to talk about is not comparing our elimination communication journey to other people in a way that's sort of not life enriching, you know, like not a comparison that kind of leaves you going like, oh, my kid should be doing that, or this should be happening, or anything like that. This is a difficult one though, because I do think that there's value in having an awareness of other people's experiences and at what stages their kids did what and how, and then sort of take anything that you can that enriches your journey from that. But that's an acknowledgement of different circumstances, and not from a space of like there's anything wrong, more from a space of like, oh, what kind of tips can I take from this, etc., etc. Let me give you an example of a reason not to compare journeys. So one of the things that people on the potty training or EC journey or whatever might talk about is like when your kid was potty trained as a big thing of like, okay, at this month they were potty trained, or the elimination communication journey was over. But something that delayed the ending of ours or the progression of ours had nothing to do with us really, but more to do with where we live and the season. So as we were getting to the point where I was feeling like, okay, I'm ready for us, like she details in the book, to go out without a diaper on, we were exiting the warmer months and entering into the colder months here. And at that point in time, I was not willing for us to have a miss. And then Elba would get really, really cold if she was wet or her clothes were wet, or I needed to change her abruptly while we were out and about outside because it was cold. So I essentially waited until we took our trip to Costa Rica, where it was warm and we were on the beach and we were swimming, and that made a lot more sense to just go diaper free when we were there, and then take that experience when we got back into the winter again. So when we took our trip to Costa Rica, Elba was diaper free during the day, except on the airplane and in the airport and in the car to the airport and from the airport. And also she was still wearing a diaper for nap time during our trip there. So would I have wanted to start going diaper free outside the home as part of the EC progression? Yes, but I was not willing to do it in Calgary cold. So I waited until the weather made it a better experience for me to be willing to do that. And that then was our trip. So sometimes things are delayed because of practical things. And a lot of ECs, actually, a lot of different practical things we're discussing, and not so much our kids' ability to communicate with us and hold it, and our ability to understand their communication and facilitate them going to the bathroom. Sometimes it's just practical. So interestingly, the not wanting to go to public bathrooms thing extended to, of course, the plane bathroom, because that one is scary even for people who don't have a normal fear of public bathrooms. But anyway, just an interesting experience to note is ECing on the plane. So on the flights there, so just did it like right there on the seat, because you have like a mat that you put underneath. It's the same thing as when I do it in the car. I put the diaper free, the mat underneath the potty should anything splash out of it. So wasn't overly concerned that we're going to miss in the plane. But anyway, on one of the flights, one of the air hosts told us that we need to do that in the bathroom. Understandable. But that was very difficult with Elba because she didn't want to use the bathroom. So at some point I just sort of like opened the bathroom door and put her on the potty like right outside without going like into that bathroom. And she she did pee there, and as you can imagine in an airplane, like there's people everywhere and so forth. So I was quite surprised that she actually went in the potty there, but for sure we did use backup diapers during that flight. I don't know what we would do at this stage, but at that point, it was definitely not at a stage where we could have done a flight without backup diapers. In between me telling all these stories, I'm going to get to more practical tips. What is it? But I do think that there's value in these stories as well. So actually, to take it a few months back, is Alba was diaper free at home, and I was really feeling like things were very consistent. We were having very few misses. And then we took a road trip to another province. And for whatever reason, I guess this was our first like proper road trip and extended period of time away from home. But it like completely reversed all of the EC. No, it didn't want to even sit on the potty. I can't remember how old she was at that point. It's like a little bit after she turned 1. But I recognized that 1, we were in a completely new environment for her. There was lots of new things. And then 2, she was really honing her walking skill. At that point in time, she was really like, she went from, you know, when they can first start to walk, they don't actually just, well, maybe other kids do. She didn't just get up and walk everywhere. Still crawled because it was more efficient. And then on that trip was where she was like, nope, I walk everywhere now. So very busy with that. But I don't know what to call it, but I do recognize that this is maybe like, if you have a word for it, let me know. But I have been in the position of very rarely changing a poop diaper. So we've done cloth diapers, and I did not change a poop diaper since Elba was like 8 months old. And even for a period before then, it was quite rare for me to change a poop diaper. Her poops were pretty consistently in the potty from like quite early on. So when we took this trip, I was like, oh gosh, might need to clean a poop diaper while we are not at our house. Thankfully that did not happen, but I was just very aware of the, oh gosh, like I'd gotten so used to, and I didn't even consider that I would be doing that. We always book an Airbnb that has a washing machine and a dryer so that I'm able to do all the things that we needed to do with cloth diapers, and just generally we like to wash our own clothes. So I could have done it, but I was just still very aware that like, I hadn't really prepared for this. And also just in the trip as a whole, I had only kind of taken like how many diapers I thought we would need for trips outside of the Airbnb, if that. And I just realized like I definitely did not pack enough of them for that trip. So when we took our next trip, I packed like extra just in case that happened again. And then it didn't happen again. The main thing I want to share there is that yes, the consistency is really nice, but I think it's quite important to not let those kind of things like get us down. Just keeping consistent and like go with it, because that's not like a total setback. It's not like that happens and then you have to like kind of just go right back to begin. It's like not a linear process. It's a all over the place process, and just allow for some uniqueness to happen every now and again, and things that kind of feel like a setback, but they're maybe just a additional practical challenge that you face on your journey, like us on the public bathrooms thing. My only bit of advice or tip with stuff like that is stay consistent in your offering, in what you do, and then make minor alterations if you so think it's necessary to do so to enhance the process for you and or your kids. So be it like changing from the potty to the toilet because you don't want to sit on the potty. Maybe they want to sit on the toilet. Trying to give them some more independence because they're trying to figure something out on their own, even if it takes longer, even if it's a little messy and you need to make sure you put like a mat around the potty because it's very important for them to physically get onto the potty themselves as opposed to you helping them with that. Or maybe it's more naked time, diaper-free time. Maybe it's less of that time. Maybe it's more observance of them or allowing them to tell you when they want to go, or maybe it's you prompting them more. So there's minor things that you can consider doing if you're feeling like it's necessary to do something. Because sometimes it's not necessary to change anything. Sometimes it's just the consistency of continuing to do it. But other times you might have an awareness of like, I feel like we should try change up something here, just based off of the experience that you're having as a parent and based off of the communication and the kind of signs that you're getting from your kid. There was a few months ago, many months ago, where I sort of was thinking like, oh, you know, I wish I didn't do the typical EC thing where you kind of like hover your kid over a toilet from when they were very little. It didn't feel like something I wanted to do. And I just always used the potty. And then there came a time where I wondered like, oh, should I have done that? Because Elba didn't like to use the physical toilet. She only wanted to use the potty. That was short-lived. Because in her own time, she at some point decided she liked using the toilet and she wanted to use the toilet instead of using the potty because that's what she sees us doing. And I was like, oh, okay, actually it doesn't matter that I didn't do that. Offer and hover over something, because when she was ready and when she wanted to, she decided herself it was time to use the toilet. So with the use of the toilet, I find that our role as a parent with most parenting things, but just talk about elimination communication here, is that Elba wanted to do a lot on her own and I just tried to facilitate such that she can do it. So when she started wanting to use the toilet, I made sure that our toilets had the insert seat. I will link down below the ones that I like. We have one downstairs, we have one upstairs. Then we have one in our diaper bag. Then we also have a stool for her downstairs and upstairs to be able to get onto the toilet herself. And then also on our taps and faucets, we have the extender. I'll link that down below, it's pretty cool. Just that she's able to participate more in washing her hands when she's done going to the bathroom. So on that practical EC note, I do recognize that this is maybe the word I will use. I have been spoiled as a parent in terms of not cleaning poop diapers. So just because of how things went with us, Elba stopped pooping in the diaper really early on. And at the time when I was still cleaning poop diapers, she was not, like, food was more definitely for fun and not for like actual food. And she was exclusively breastfed. So it's very easy to clean. You just, like, you can rinse it in the machine. And that made things really easy for me. But a practical thing I want to talk about why some parents may actually want to encourage, to whatever degree is respectful to your kid, the transition from the potty to the toilet. I know that I was one of those. Is it's just easier to clean when it's in the toilet. Actually, it's not a whole lot to clean. You just flush versus in the potty. Now, except for this weekend, from a practical perspective, it is nicer when your kid goes in the toilet in terms of just ease of cleaning. So for us, it was a long time before the poop changes because Elba is still very much breastfed. However, she eats a lot more now. So my timeline was very different with that compared to what other people said to expect, especially like people I spoke to around cloth diapers and like what kind of cloth diapers and stuff. But anyway, long story short is when you get to the point where it's not as easy to just rinse it out and clean the potty like that, something that's incredibly useful is the use of a bidet, so a handheld sprayer to just spray the potty down. And surprisingly, it's a lot more affordable and easy to install than people might think. We have them on all of our bathrooms here. I'll link it down below. I got them off of Amazon and Ian installed them, I think, pretty quickly. Moving on, another practical thing that I want to discuss is EC practical clothing. This is something that I became more and more aware that I have this like difference in terms of parenting versus other parents, is that Elba's clothes have always been practical EC clothes. So one of the things that she never wears, and I don't know when you will see her wearing that, is kind of like dungaree onesie kind of things that require a lot of taking off. Those are things that she has just not worn because it's not practical for me to have taken that off or for her to learn to take that stuff off multiple times in a day. So what we've always done is shirts and pants or dresses were the most easy, of course, rather than any kind of onesie, lots of things to take off. So there's lots of like cute little outfits that Elba never wore. And there's lots of outfits that I purchased because you just kind of see them and you don't really think through. And then I'm like, but this is not practical for our EC journey. This is not practical to very quickly and easily take this off and offer potty. So one of the big recommendations is put clothing on your kid that is practical for you as a parent to take off multiple times a day and quickly. Sometimes you really need to get that stuff off very quickly and get them onto the potty really quickly. But the other thing is to give them that independence to learn to take off their clothing by themselves. In our case, I think that our EC journey helped Elba be able to undress and dress herself a lot earlier than I actually realized that kids could do something like this. And yeah, maybe my kid has a particular interest in dressing and undressing herself, but I also think in part the EC journey plays a role in that because we've not done the typical diaper change table scenario. So with EC, a lot of what you're doing is just kind of pulling down and removing while they're standing in kind of not always the most practically easy situations. You know, it's often like on the way to the potty, or it's in the car, or it's outside or something where you're not going to lie them down. So a lot of my experience was that very early on already, and a lot of going to the bathroom, so to speak, was how she would do it, you know, like less like a baby and more just like how other people would go to the bathroom. Stand, pull your stuff down, get in the toilet, and then we pull it back up. Even with diapers, even with cloth diapers, I was putting cloth diapers back on while she was standing on the seat of the car, obviously parked and safe and all of that. But I think that facilitated her learning to pull up pants and push down pants, and also using trainers facilitates that. So I, having done it now, I'm like, yes, I probably with a future kid will even move to trainers earlier than 12 months. I mean, I spoke about why we did it at 12 months, but I really think that it was helpful for her to figure out how to pull them down and practice putting them back up. I do wish that I had the bear trainers, the ones with little bears on, because the ones that I have, I can't find them now, I'll show a picture of them. They're the turquoise, just plain ones. So with the turquoise ones, it's not easy to tell what is the back and the front. So the only kind of thing that I need to help her with really is knowing what the back and the front is. So she sometimes puts them on back to front. And I would have liked the bare ones. However, at the time of purchasing them, I was purchasing them with a friend, and because I don't live in the US, I do pay shipping and import duties and all of that, and they didn't have the bare ones in stock in this size, so I wasn't going to place an additional order when they did have them in stock. I do recommend the bare ones. I think are great for this age. I think when they're younger, just the plain colored ones are probably better, but we don't have the bare ones. That actually being said, I think the plain colored ones hold up better in terms of looking newer. So actually, if you watched my other videos, you'll know that I spoke about how they bunched, and that was not great, but I recognize it says wash on cold and I wash on warm. I solved that problem. I wash on warm still, however, I don't put them in the dryer. They line dry, and that has prevented them from bunching. So the trainers that she's had in this size, she's worn for a really long time, like much longer than the previous size ones, and they have not bunched the way the previous ones did. So that's good. Anyway, so the point I wanted to make was practical EC clothing that your kid can push down or pull up or whatever to facilitate them being able to do more of the process by themselves. And it was my experience that Elba wanted to do more of those things by herself. So we never had a change table station because that just didn't go along with what felt practical for us. And I'm happy that we never did that, because it kind of meant that, again, there's not been like major transitions for me away from this phase is now over into this phase, like little transitions, but not majors. We never had like, okay, now a change table, now no more change table, because we never had a change table. We had reusable cloth wipes and diapers in like a basket or just upstairs and downstairs, and a potty wherever, and maybe some spare clothes like in this thing down here. But back to the trainer part, I did a trainer review video when I bought all the different types of trainers. I'll link that down below so you can have a look, and there's lots of options in that video. With that being said, we only use 2 types right now. So we use predominantly, like 99.9% of the time, we use the Tiny Undies trainers from the Go Diaper Free company. That's linked down below. And I do recommend, by the way, sizing up in them. I do find that they run small. And then we also use the Thirsties cotton ones. So how they differ is they're cotton on the inside. I think they're organic cotton on the inside. And then on the outside, they have like the plastic, which the Tiny Undies don't have. So I do prefer the Tiny Undies for most of the time because they mostly resemble like normal underwear. They just feel soft, they feel like clothing. But the Thirsties ones I also find are really nice if you're maybe doing a new transition period and you want some added layer of protection there. So I actually recommended them to a mom friend who does AC, who is transitioning away from diapers at night. Her kiddo is a bit older than Elba. Is they then use those to transition away from the night nappy, just because they offer like a tiny bit more catching protection than the Tiny Undies ones do. So those are just the 2 that we use. I only have one of the Thirsties ones in the size that currently fits her. I contemplated getting more, but I don't think that is necessary, because what I've actually found is you think that some transitions are going to take very long, and maybe they do, but also sometimes things just really happen very quickly, and then you've ended up purchasing a bunch of stuff that you don't really need a lot of. So for the trainers, how many you need will depend on how often you've got misses, more or less, and how often you do washing. Okay, so let me talk about before I move on to like nap and nighttime and all that, let me talk about why I don't really care for much of a differentiation between undies and trainers. For us, we're still mostly using trainers rather than underwear, and honestly, it's because I think they fit nicer than the Tiny Undies. We do have the Tiny Undies, and we have them in a few different sizes, but I kind of just like the fit of the trainers better, and it's got used to it. So maybe I'll just move away from that, because it does seem like I'm just doing it out of habit, really. But I recommend, at least for our journey, and you can listen to our experience and decide what works for you, I do recommend using the trainers probably longer than maybe the book would even recommend, because our kids are still very young, and the trainers are not going to, they're not a diaper, right? They're not going to hold a full-size wee. They're just going to buy you some time and make like 20% less cleaning up to do. But the reason I actually prefer to use them for longer is because our kids are small, and therefore sometimes their awareness of when they need to go is not there until it's there. So they might even start to wee a little bit and be like, oh gosh, and then tell you that they need to go to the toilet. That's where the trainer is very helpful. I do find that becomes less with just like the older they get. So you don't need that so much as a backup. But there are also times where just practically, I say the word practically in this video is a lot, I appreciate knowing that I have a little bit of extra protection. So I'll give you an example. The other day I went, so we live in Calgary, Canada. It is currently really, really cold. So I don't know if you saw Elba's cheeks. They are red like that because of going out in very, very cold. Anyway, we went to the thrift store and I was so excited. So at the thrift store, I found a Trofast, the upright one, with all of its bins for $12. I was super excited because I do a lot of arts and crafts and just DIY kind of stuff. And I was like, yes, I can organize the things. Anyway, I was busy paying for it when Elba started telling me, Mama P, Mama Potty. And the lady at the shop was, I think, assumed Elba was a baby. But then I was like kind of saying, there was a sense of urgency because I need to get her to the toilet. So the woman was like, oh, should I unlock the bathroom for you? And it's like, no, she's currently want to go in public bathroom, so I need to get to the car to grab her potty and get this Trofast to the car as well. And it's like really cold outside, so put the jackets back on and put the beanie back on and all of those things to get to the car. Make sure you walk safely because of ice and snow and so forth. And you can't push the trolley out of the shop, so I have to carry this throw fast thing with all the bins, and my child who's insistently telling me that she really needs to go, and now I need to get to the car. Anyway, we made it to the car, and I'm grateful that we did, but I appreciated in that moment that should she have not been able to hold it until I got to the car, we had a little bit of protection with her wearing the trainer for moments like that. And so again, it comes down to the practical thing of if your kiddo is using a public bathroom easily and you can easily get to the bathroom or get to the potty, you need less of a buffer there. However, I'm currently in winter in Calgary and my kiddo does not want to use the public bathroom. So I do sometimes, it's not so fast for me to get to a bathroom, and I appreciate just that added extra protection when we're out and about because I really do not want her to be cold. Anyway, so that's just the practical decision that I've made for now until it becomes faster to be able to get her to a toilet or get her to the potty. And it also depends really where we're going. Like some places is very easy, but other outings it's really not easy. Like when we currently go out in winter, she's got merino wool thermals on, leggings on, a snowsuit on, and then wrap up boots on that all need to come off before she can go to the toilet. So that is very different from like our Costa Rica experience where she had like a little dress on. Let's talk about nap time. I had no expectations to be diaper free during nap for a long period of time, but it just kind of happened. So how that happened was when we would go upstairs, more or less when she's tired and ready for a nap, I would just ask her if she wanted to go to the toilet before the time. Most of the time she would wee in the toilet, and therefore I didn't feel the need to put a diaper on her when she would nap. So every time she would wee before she went to nap, I didn't feel the need to put a diaper on, and that kind of just so happens that that became an everyday thing. And then I realized, okay, well, I'm not going to put a diaper on during nap time, and that is how that happened. So she does wee in the toilet before she naps, and she does wee when she wakes up from her nap. Usually first thing when she wakes up from her nap. Nighttime though is a little bit different. She currently still wears a cotton night nappy. So this is the only nappy that she still wears. And I'm not sure when we will go diaper free at night. So this is our current experience of that is, and it's different from like what I read in the book or other people's elimination communication experience. And the reason for that is many parents at this age, their children are kind of sleeping separate from them, and maybe, I don't know, like they have a different nighttime setup than we do. So our nighttime thing is that we breast sleep. It's a form of co-sleeping where you breastfeed, and she still very much nurses multiple times through the night. So that means input, there's going to be a need for output. And because of her still nursing multiple times in the night, I'm definitely not going to lean towards her going diaper free at night. And I'm also definitely not going to night wean her so that she doesn't need to wear a diaper. Those are things I'm not willing to change. They're very important to us and so forth. So long story short, she still very much nurses throughout the night. Therefore, she will most likely need to wee during the night. And what my experience has been, though, is we will go many days of dry diaper, and it's like the funnest thing. So what will happen is she will wake me up in the morning, and she will start to undress herself. So again, I think if we allow children the space and encouragement to do things on their own, it's been my experience that Elba really enjoys figuring things out by herself. So she is now able to take her entire sleeper thing off, including her vest clip. Sometimes the clips are a little bit difficult to undo, and the night nappy, which is a cover, and then the nappy, and then she will say to me, "Mama, come, toilet," and then pull me so that she can go to the toilet in the morning. And then often we have a dry diaper. However, every few days, we also have the scenario, maybe she had like less peaceful deep sleep, I don't know, but we'll have the scenario where that thing is so saturated, it's basic, no, it like leaks you know? So we either have this super dry diaper for many days, or we've got this scenario where the thing's like overflowing from the nighttime output. And because of all of that, I'm not at the stage where I'm even considering going diaper free at night. And I think we're also at the age where I will lean into what Elba would like to do with that. So I have another mom friend whose kiddo is like a year older than Elba, and she shares with me her EC experience and literally what happened with her kid with very similar sleeping setups is that her kid just one day said she didn't want to wear a diaper when she went to sleep, and then one day said she didn't really want to wear the trainers anymore when she went to sleep, and that is how they moved away from the diaper and then the trainer during sleep. So I will fill you in when we are like 100% diaper free, which includes the nighttime, but for now I have no inclination to disrupt my sleep or her sleep to go diaper free. There are some nights that she will wake me up to go to the toilet, but that's quite rare. One of the things that I very briefly considered is to set up a potty for her, like a potty station in our room. But no, because I'm more worried that like she will try to throw the potty out and our room is carpeted and so forth. So our room is actually an open plan with the bathroom, but for safety reasons, there is a gate that blocks her ability to go to the bathroom during the night. And I'm going to prioritize safety above her going unsupervised to a potty or a toilet during the nighttime. So right now, if and when she wants to go, she will wake us and she will tell me, Mama, come toilet. And interestingly, she actually will say toilet at home, where when we're out, she will say potty. Where before she used to say, when she was okay with public bathrooms, she would point at a door and say bathroom. An interesting observation of like her verbally expressing her preference depending on where we are and depending on what she wanted to do. Anyway, moving on from that, there was something that I purchased that I did not think was super valuable, but I did it anyway. And actually, I now highly recommend it. Hold on, let me grab one of them. The other one's upstairs. The Tiny Potty board book. So there's the Tiny Potty one, and then there's the Nighttime Potty one. Our Nighttime Potty one is upstairs. I bought these when I did that order with a friend when Elba was like a year old, so a while ago. And she was buying the Nighttime Potty one, so I was like, oh, okay, you know, let me try out these books. And we read them to Elba, and at the time, Elba didn't really have like stuffed toys in her environment. So because it includes like a bear going to the potty, we got a bear and the potty was there just to see what would happen. Literally from the first time reading this book, Elba started to take her stuffed toys and other toys and offer them potty. So she would put them on the potty and she would say like pss, pss, pss. And she really enjoyed these books, like much more than I thought she would. So I do think that they facilitated our EC journey, surprisingly, because I was like, no, Elba doesn't even play with stuffed toys. Like, she's not going to put them on there. Obviously, that was many months ago. Like, now, just toddler changes and whatever. She absolutely loves all of her toys. They all have different names, and they still very much consistently go to the toilet as just part of how she plays with them. So the biggest thing is just to make sure that she doesn't let go when she's offering them toilet, because otherwise they're going to fall in the toilet. But I do love that this book included that, because even now when she's offering her stuffed toys the toilet or taking them to the toilet, she will put that little insert onto the toilet as part of the process, and she will announce that, like, for example, so went pee in the toilet. And I quite like that, and I think that it did come from this book. Like, maybe it would have happened irrespective of the book, but I do find that she really enjoys these, like, part where it's like zooming the toilet paper, and she just loves that part. So this one in the Nighttime Potty one, yeah, zoom zoom.
Zoom paper.
Yeah, toilet paper. Yeah. Zoom zoom zoom. The toilet paper spins. I wipe till I'm clean, then I throw the paper in.
Flush.
Yeah, and then we flush it.
Open.
Yeah.
Flush.
Yeah. Anyway, so if it's in your budget and it is accessible to you, I would recommend getting those books. I have chatted to friends who don't have access to these books just based off the country that they live in, like what would be suitable alternatives. And I think that's kind of trial and error. So if you found maybe potty training books or books about going to the toilet that you think are applicable to EC babies, please comment that down below, just because that's not something that I looked into or read. So I don't have currently any good recommendations for books that can be used as alternatives to this book. I love that this one is made for EC babies, which with what we were doing, and awesome. So if you can get them, I would recommend getting them. I do think that they were useful on our journey, surprisingly. I wasn't expecting that. Right, then the last thing that I want to talk about in terms of the practicalness of EC, or just EC, before I give my final thoughts and conclude this video, is that I think this is true for a lot of our parenting. I mentioned this earlier in the video. I think that what we do as parents is we essentially facilitate aiding our kids to do things that they're not able to do just yet on their own, but when they're able to do it, then we can progress. So I really try to set up our house and set up our journey to coincide with what Elba was able to do, but also to encourage her to do things by herself, obviously with me right there supporting her. So I do think that EC progression, so to speak, and what we do as parents on the EC journey will coincide a lot with their other development, like their other skill development, I think, on that. And I do also think that EC helps with other skill development. So, I mean, I implemented this as a parent because I believe that holistically it fits into my approach as a parent and not this like isolated thing over here. So I do believe that the skills influence how you do EC, but also that EC influences their skills. One big thing that is discussed in the elimination communication, what would we call it? Like sphere place, also in the book, is that a lot of the jump from diapers to no diapers. Yeah. Oh no. Again? Is when they can walk, because then it becomes different and they will walk to the potty and they will start to carry around the potty, and they will, our case, that was also more or less when we started to move to the toilet, because suddenly their space becomes a lot bigger. And then they can climb onto the potty and climb off of the potty and help you throw it out. That part can sometimes get a little bit messy, but they participate more in all of that. And like I said, pull down pants, pull back up pants. So everything that their like physical development is impacting on what you as an EC parent is going to do, but then also their participation in all of that, I think is useful. Like instead of lying down to have a diaper changed, she multiple times a day is climbing stairs to turn around in a small space-ish on that stair to climb onto the toilet. And it's the same when she was younger, to climb onto the potty. So there's a lot of natural movement that's happening. For me, that's very the same as our choice to not have a car seat that leaves the car. The car seat stays in the car. There's a lot of natural development of their muscles and their strength simply through you going about your day-to-day life. And I love that about EC, is that without explicitly considering that, I observed that as part of our experience. Now, the other one that I mentioned in other videos is that I didn't do baby sign language. Interestingly enough, one of the books Alba was playing with at the beginning of this video is the Love Every sign language book that I happened to find secondhand recently, and she quite enjoys copying the signs and whatnot. But we didn't do baby sign language. I don't know why, but I read about it and I understand it's incredibly popular and loads of people advocate for it as a way for early communication and so forth. But I have noted this, that maybe if I had a different kid, then I would have regretted that decision. But in our experience, Elba's verbal communication happened quite quickly, and from very early on, she was making sounds to go to the potty. Then those sounds turned into words, and then those words turned into what we have now, which is essentially full sentences. Now, of course, Elba's verbal communication development assisted in elimination communication because, like I was saying, yeah. She is able to ask me whether she wants to go to the potty or the toilet. She's able to say what she would like to do in there. So that's the way that it's helpful, I guess, for me as a parent, that she can verbally communicate that. But like I spoke about, I also think that EC contributes to the development of those skills. So if you are doing EC, again, you're probably not doing it in isolation, like it probably feeds into the other approaches that you have as a parent. But one of the things that you're doing a lot throughout the day is you're narrating things. You're just naturally narrating it because that's part of the process, right? To make those sounds to them, to say, oh, would you like to go potty now? I'm going to offer you potty now. We're going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to pull down your pants now. And you kind of speak them through it. That actually, I started doing that when Alba was born already. One of the books that I read in preconception and I reread it in pregnancy was the Objectivist Parenting book. It's a very old book. It's very short, very easy to read. But it speaks about treating your child as a whole being and speaking them through what you're going to do from the day that they are born. Like whenever you're changing the diaper, I'm going to lie you down now. I'm going to do this now. I'm going to put your clothes on. It's very gentle. It's a very gentle act to do with your child. So, and just by the way, in saying that, I recommend that book. I don't subscribe to one parenting paradigm only. I take a lot of inspiration from many different parenting paradigms. I read a lot of different parenting books, and I started a blog. So I've linked down below my parenting book recommendations and just a little bit of what I took from them. So again, I'm not someone who subscribes to like we do objectivist parenting. No, I took some inspiration from it, and one of that was the narration of doing things with your kid. Now, that is a natural part of EC, is you want to be narrating it because the more you're narrating it, the more they're picking up on the sounds and the words, the more they're going to start saying that back to you and understand what's coming and understand the process and your routine and so forth. But natural narration and ongoing narration with your kid is also just a way that we facilitate their speech development. So this is just a reminder that if it is maybe feeling a bit repetitive and you're feeling a little tired and not sure if it makes a difference, I do think it makes a difference to continue to narrate to your child different things, even if at the time they're not speaking back to you. It becomes easier when they speak back to you, of course, but I think that it's very useful. Anyway, with that, I'm going to share my final thoughts on elimination communication to conclude this video. I don't think that this will be my last EC video. I would really like to make maybe one more video just to discuss any questions I haven't answered in these videos, as well as maybe some, I think, like misperceptions that people might get about elimination communication from the online community who are trying to sell elimination communication. So I do understand like a 30 second to a minute reel is not an accurate representation of something. But I think that sometimes watching that kind of content or the way that some people speak about EC can get EC parents down a little bit because your real experience of it may not be what you are seeing happen online. So I just would like to just share anything that I can to aid in a sense of community, shared reality. That brings me to my final thoughts on EC, which is answering the question of whether I think that it's worth it, and just, I guess, responding to a misperception that I sometimes hear people say around EC. So for me, a million times, yes, was worth it. It has been so meaningful. It has been so beautiful. And it's been everything that I wanted it to be when I decided that that was something that I wanted to do as a parent. And I'll get to that when I respond to this next thing. As some people online often say that elimination communication helps with potty training later. And that to me is not accurate, because you're not potty training if you did elimination communication. And never did we potty train Elba. Never did we do any of the kind of typical potty training things. It wasn't this like, okay, weekend of sit a lot on the toilet and so forth. So I think Andrew Olson has a book for older kids, I think for 18 months plus, which is a lot more potty training kind of things that you may do with your kid. But having done elimination communication, we did not potty train, and I don't think that you need to potty train your child if you did elimination communication. That feeds back into what I wanted elimination communication to be when I embarked on this journey. Like almost everything in my parenting journey, is I always wanted to treat my child as a whole child, a whole being with her needs, and listening to her as much as possible from the get-go, and like really involving her in everything that is about her, and having no stark jumps from like, okay, now she's a baby, now she's a child, now she's therefore I do this thing. Like one of the things my husband and I often speak about in the way that you respect a baby and you speak to them, and the compassion you show them, is like, you don't one day flip a switch and you're like, okay, now I treat my child as a whole being. It's part of the process, and it's something that you do throughout. And EC was exactly that. There was no huge transition from like, okay, your diaper is your toilet, now your toilet is your toilet. Everything was this gradual, gentle, respectful transition that happened when her and I felt ready to do that. And this translates literally to like all of the other parenting things that I do as well. It's just part of how we approach parenting. So we've never done the whole like, okay, bassinet to crib to bed, because we breast sleep. So it's always just been the same. And the same thing with food. It may be a small example, but the utensils and the plate that I purchased for her represent what we use. And so there was never this like super baby plate with like pictures and stuff and compartments. The plate I picked for her was as close as possible to the color plates that we have, and it's just a flat surface plate, no compartments. And her utensils were just little stainless steel safe baby versions of what we have. So it's the same with EC, is that I adapted what she needed for her development and for her age at that point in time to make it like appropriate for her. However, I tried to keep it as close to just what she would be doing in typical life, and just see my role as a parent as the gentle facilitator of ways that she can meet her needs, or ways that I can meet her needs or help her to do so. So EC for me was exactly what I wanted it to be. It was respectful, it was meaningful, it was fun, it was really a unique bonding experience that our little family had. And I think it was really amazing in that sense. And I will for sure do it with any future children, maybe with some minor adaptations just because I have a little bit more experience now. But yeah, and then the added benefit, of course, but it was never ever the goal, was a lot less diaper cleaning, a lot less. So I am just very aware that I am not experienced in diaper changes the way that other parents are. It's not been something that's been a big part of my journey. Like I said, we cloth diapered from the beginning, but I've not cleaned a lot of diapers in my parenting journey compared to what the average parent not doing EC would be doing. And of course, she is out of diapers a lot younger than I think the typical potty training age. But those were never the goals. Those are just nice, convenient little outcomes of things. So I am a big advocate for elimination communication. It was really, really life enriching to our parenting experience. And I do think that it was life enriching for Alba as well. So that brings me to the end of today's video. And like I said, I make like one more EC video for this kid at least. We're big into child spacing, so not sure when I'll be making more EC videos for a future kid. But you can let me know in the comments down below if you've got any particular questions about any practical element or philosophical element that you'd like me to cover.